guys, how's it going? Yankee Dewey here, and welcome to the channel. And today we're going to be covering the 5 things that I hate about my 2016 Mustang GT. Now, first things first, I do want to say that I do not hate this car in any way, but that doesn't mean that there were some things about this car that I particularly hate, and in today's video, I'm going to cover those. Alright, so for the first thing that I hate about my 2016 Mustang GT has got to be the stock exhaust system. Now, of course, as you can see, the stock exhaust is really not a problem anymore. I've already removed it and I've put on an aftermarket one, but it doesn't take away from the fact that this system is absolutely horrible, and you can kind of see why. First off, right over here, Ford decided to put this giant heavy resonator on the system, and then we have these big restrictive mufflers here, which, you know, it's really a shame because this was a 50-year Mustang and Ford muffled it. They put this terrible exhaust on it. Not only is it really heavy, this exhaust system is so restrictive. Hell, half the time you can't even tell that there's a V8 attached to the other end of this thing. It really is that bad, and I really don't know what Ford was thinking by putting this system on such a great car like the S550. You know, this was the 50-year Mustang. This was supposed to be the new Mustang, a different, I guess, era you could say, and they put this thing on. Of course, now we all know Ford has realized their error, and for the 2018s, they've given us a more boisterous stock exhaust as well as an optional active exhaust. But still, that doesn't take away from the fact that if you buy one of these 2015 through 2017 Mustangs, you know you're going to have to drop just a little bit more money and get yourself an aftermarket exhaust. So yeah, getting an exhaust for these S550s is pretty essential. There you can see mine. I have a MBRP Cat-Back street exhaust, and it is phenomenal. I highly recommend it. It's really good exhaust, plus it's really cheap. I'll have a link in the description below so you guys can check it out. All right, so let's get on to the second thing that I hate about my 2016 Mustang GT, and that has to be the way this car came stock with its suspension and tire setup. I am glad to say that as of now, the problem has been resolved, much in the same way that my exhaust was resolved by getting an aftermarket setup. The same can be said for the suspension currently right now on my car, which is the Ford Performance Track suspension. And of course, I have the Performance Pack wheels and tires right here on the car. But it was the stock setup that really kind of got me down about this car. You know, this is the base GT. I've already explained it before and why I bought it and why I've had to go ahead and make these mods. But you know, I will say this, the stock suspension on the base GT is okay. I think it's obviously meant for comfort. It's meant for daily drivers. And to be honest with you, I think Ford did a pretty good job with balancing stiffness and balancing comfort. However, if you do want to engage in something more than, let's say, slightly spirited driving, I think the base suspension falls short. And what's even worse is Ford gives you Pirelli P0 Neros, which is an all-season tire. And to make things even worse than that, the tire size is 235 wide all the way around. So there is literally no grip, no traction. The suspension is rather soft, and like I said, is really nothing good outside of, you know, some spirited driving, maybe on a back road here and there. A few more odd characteristics that I noticed about the stock suspension setup was, number one, it had this kind of odd jouncing and rebounding effect to it. Now, I know all suspensions jounce and rebound, but I don't know, it had like this really weird characteristic to it where if you were going fast, I'm not even saying like 100 or 120, no, I mean, you know, 70, 80, and the road was a bit uneven, I mean just slightly uneven. It would develop this weird characteristic where it would jounce and rebound, and it would feel as if the car began to become unsettled. And I really don't know what caused it, to be honest. I have no idea, but I really disliked that about it. It was jarring, and it really was not confidence inspiring at all. The second characteristic that I didn't like about the stock suspension was it had this feeling of like the chassis or the body was riding more or less on top of its suspension rather than hunkered down in. And I know that's kind of a small thing because, you know, this is not really meant to be a sports car. It's more or less meant to be a muscle car. So that effect can be present, and I think pretty much no one's really going to care. But to be honest, it mattered to me, and again, that's all been fixed with this suspension setup. But again, it was just a characteristic that I hated about this car, and that's why that suspension had to go, and this new Ford Performance Track suspension had to be installed. Alright, so the third thing I hate is this rear trunk, more specifically the trunk lid, And it has to do with the fact that there is no handle in here. There's nothing here to help you close this trunk lid. What you have to do is you have to grab it right up here, which is annoying because you're going to get your fingers dirty. And because of the piano black finish, you can already see my fingerprints right there smudged all over the piano black finish on the rear deck lid. And I'll be honest with you, that drives me absolutely insane. The fact that every time I open this, which opens fine, nothing wrong, but I have nothing to grab on to close it. I have to reach right up here and I have to close it, get my fingers dirty, and on top of that, get some nice fingerprinting there. So yeah, no excuse, Ford, absolutely no excuse. You gotta have a handle. Hell, I know, $15,000 Hyundais that have a handle. I don't know why this car can't have it. It's just really something that bugs me, and it's the third thing I hate. All right, so the fourth thing I hate, we have to go in the interior here, and it has to do with the door armrest right here. Now, I don't know if I can get it to make a noise, but I don't know if you guys could be able to hear that, but it's kind of making this creaking sound, and it happens every so often. I haven't really noticed too much of a pattern. It doesn't happen all the time, and I don't know if it has to do with heat or humidity, and I'm not quite sure really what makes it kind of creak like that. Like I said, it's there some days, it's not. It's actually doing it right now, and it's kind of annoying. When you go to put your arm on here, you're going to hear that creaking. And, like if my wife's sitting in the car, she'll notice it, and she always like, oh, what's that? And I'll have to tell her. Now, these S550s, they are a little bit notorious for having some interior rattle problems. Some people have problems with like these portions of the dash rattling, maybe the center stack here rattling a little bit. It's more prevalent in the like 2015s than that, the earlier S550s, but so far I've had no issues. However, that there is really annoying, and for a car at any price point in 2017, it shouldn't do that. I'm sorry, it shouldn't do that. The only other thing I can hope for is that the rest of the interior holds up well, and yeah, guys, that's the fourth thing I hate. Okay, so the last and final thing I hate about my 2016 Mustang GT has got to be the paint. Now, this is relatively common with American cars like this. They are very, very cheap, and a lot of guys will comment and say, well, no wonder it's so cheap because the interior is shoddy and the paint's crap and so on and so forth. And overall, the interior on this car is great, and everything about this car is pretty well built as far as I'm concerned. I'm not worried about it, but the one thing I will say that Ford definitely did lack on here is the quality of the paint, because it is probably one of the worst things about this car, to be completely honest. The paint job is cheap, it's layered on thin, and it's terrible. I find it to be a constant struggle to keep this paint job looking good and not getting chips or nicks or anything else like that. And it always seems as if every other week or something, I'm finding some new paint chip somewhere on the car, especially here in the front fascia. For example, this little gem right here I just noticed just the other day, and yeah, stuff like that happens quite often with this paint job, and there's really nothing you could do about it except just get some sort of paint protection as soon as you buy one of these things. That would be my recommendation, and you're going to save yourself a lot of headaches, I'm going to tell you right now. I have 8,500 miles on this car, and I have to say that I have more chips and little scratches and dings on this thing than pretty much any other car that I've ever owned. And I've owned a lot of cars, folks, and I would say it's probably comparable to my 2004 Chevrolet Cavalier. Yeah, I can't believe I'm making that comparison, but I am. The paint is as cheap and as thin as a 2004 Chevrolet Cavalier. Yeah, it's that bad. Alright guys, well that's pretty much it. I just wanted to make a follow-up video to the 5 things I love about my 2016 Mustang GT, as well as also I have a little bit of an announcement to make. I will be going to the Street Speed 717 Oktoberfest call out here in October, and I absolutely cannot wait. I'm just going to go there as a spectator and kind of see what's all going on. So I just kind of want to share that all with you guys. Make sure to go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. I do plan on covering that event as much as I possibly can and capture a whole bunch of video for you guys and talk with a bunch of other YouTubers. So make sure you guys subscribe and check back because that event is coming up very, very soon. I will also be vlogging the road trip because I will not be trailering the Mustang. I will be actually driving it. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Please, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, like, and share the video. Thank you all for watching. See you guys in the next one.